You gave me to test a biomagnetic machine, electromagnetic machine, and I've played around with it. I haven't had any illnesses in order to really use it, but I feel pretty good with it. It gives you that healing property, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The high voltage is what is very penetrating, and it's providing electrons to your tissues to quench free radicals and also boosting your transmembrane potential with the high voltage that it's providing.
Tom, tell us...
Junior is the actual name of it, and I'm glad you got a chance to try it.
Tell us how you got involved in what we're going to be talking about tonight, and that's zero-point energy, electromagnetic biohealing, and zero-point energy. How'd this all happen for you?
Well, it's a loaded question there. Basically, I've told this story many times. 1980 was my beginning of a journey that actually started with looking for free energy in a homopolar generator. And I traveled to California, visited a community that actually had built one, but the founder of the community, Norman Paulson, claimed to have went on a ship, a UFO. And so then I traced it down to George Van Tassel, and the story of George Van Tassel is very fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
The talk at the Mega UFO conference just this past year, in the beginning of the year, to explain all the UFO things that have resulted from that, including technologies that have convinced me that free energy is zero-point energy and so forth is the way of our future. We're in a primitive society right now.
Van Tassel came up with the Integratron down by Joshua Tree, didn't he?
Yes, and it was fascinating to me to actually be interviewed for the Ancient Aliens program, and they did a special on the Integratron. So I had to buy all of Van Tassel's books, read them real quickly, organize them into, something I could talk about. And he had a fascinating bunch of predictions about when for example, the UFO buzz over Washington, D.C. in 1952. His contacts told him 6 months ahead of time they were going to do that. So Van Tassel was amazing. He was really, really one of a kind. And of course, he had UFOs visiting his 10,000 plus audience in the Giant Rock, Joshua Tree Desert.
Yeah, he sure did. That's an amazing place. We go down there. We did not go this year because of COVID, but Contact in the Desert is held down there, and just a fascinating area. Let's talk about these three different points right now, Tom, and let's start with zero-point energy. What exactly is zero-point energy?
Well, actually, the best way to describe that, and of course, you can refer to my book, Zero-Point Energy, Fuel of the Future, which was written to have a picture on almost every page, so the layman could really enjoy the visual point of this. But really, there are at least a dozen ways to prove zero-point energy exists. And it's really the energy of fluctuations of noise, non-thermal noise, that exists even if you get to absolute zero. Absolute zero is minus 273 Celsius or 400 some degrees Fahrenheit below zero. And yet there's still energy there, and there's lots of things that have proven it works, and it's still viable, including the Casimir force. And the Casimir force is what keeps geckos attached to surfaces and insects being able to crawl across your ceiling. So and it's keeping the electron away from the nucleus in your body and every piece of matter that we see.
How do we get to that 0 point?
Well, that's actually the Race to 0 Point was a video that I was a technical consultant for in 1994, I believe. Free Energy Race to 0 Point. It's free on the internet now. But how do we get there? Well, there's a number of ways to easily research it and prove that you have some amount of energy. For example, magnets. Permanent magnets retain their magnetism because of spinning electrons. But spinning electrons get their energy from zero-point energy. So there's angular momentum in the vacuum. So that's one way, and I'm actually engaged in a spiral motor research project that I've given lectures on and published journal papers on. There's also a diode approach. The zero-bias diode is another publication that I've produced. But recently we've been pursuing the Manellus device. Arthur Menellis was a famous, actually you can research Google his name, Menellis, Manelas, and it's fascinating. He has no derogatory comments online. And
well, that's rare.
Yeah, exactly. And also, PhDs have spent time with him, researching him. I even got Dr. Brian Ahern to give a lecture at our conference on future energy 2 years ago, and that's available on DVD and also MP4 download from our website. And it was fascinating because he basically couldn't account for the extra energy that the electric car Menellis rewired was producing, even as it sat in the driveway under 24-hour movie video recording.
Do you think Tesla was a time traveler, Tom?
I wonder, yeah.
I mean, the guy was a genius. I mean, how did he get so far ahead of everybody?
Well, that's what we're trying to figure out now. And actually, we're funding a project that accumulates all the data that these eyewitnesses recorded and the circuit diagrams that they recorded. Some of them are conflicting with others, obviously, because, these geniuses are very eccentric, I should say. But overall, it's hopeful that the simplicity of the invention could lead itself to a breakthrough. And, of course, we hope for an inspiration. We pray that God will guide us in the right direction because the human race needs this kind of breakthrough. We can't keep burning fossil fuels. We're polluting the atmosphere. We're, up 40-some% of carbon dioxide already. It's way over the limit.
Tom, when Nikola Tesla died, why did the government raid his home and office to take his papers?
Well, that's a good question. I've written 2 books on Nikola Tesla, Harnessing the Wheelwork of Nature, and also Nikola Tesla's Electricity Unplugged. And so I've actually recorded and included some very nice biographies to answer that question. But overall, you have to, when you review his life, you basically realize that Tesla was another eccentric genius that made too many outlandish claims.
Did he make enemies?
Well, sure, especially near the end of his life. I mean, J.P. Morgan was his worst enemy at that point.
Jeez.
In fact, the story goes that J.P. Morgan contacted, the 3 or 4 different academic publishers that were, around the...
Hold on for a second, Tom. We'll come back and talk more about that. Then I really want to get into your bioelectromagnetic healing properties next.